Ted, why do you look so happy?
I finally get to play the all-Hobbit party.
Oh, sweet. Lucky rocks. You're going to be able to play a party of halflings?
Not a party of hobbits, but a party like from Lord of the Rings, all-fighter party.
Great idea, Ted. Let's talk about the all-fighter D&D party. Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Dave, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted.
Do you want to arm your YouTube feed with all the D&D content? Then make like a fighter and extra attack that subscribe button.
You won't need the feat alert if you click that notification bell.
Before we jump into the all-fighter D&D party, let's take a second to thank our sponsor, D&D Beyond. They actually made looking up the information for this video so easy. All of the fighter subclasses right in one spot that we could look at and pull up on D&D Beyond on your digital device. It's a great database of everything D&D.
You can go right to your favorite classes, right to your favorite spells. It's super easy. You can use it and get access to all of the free content, or you can really dive in and get access to that legendary bundle and have access to all D&D right at the touch of your fingers.
And don't forget, anyone can share campaigns with anyone else, so not even everyone in your party has to own it. As long as someone owns all the content, they can open it up for the campaign for everybody in your gaming table.
So let's dive in and look at fighters.
All right, let's dive into the all-fighter D&D party. And first off, we should look at the role and what is it that the fighter does and what are they good at?
Well, the fighter is excellent at taking damage and dishing out damage.
So if we're talking roles, that would basically be your tank and your DPS possibly. And then we have 7 subclasses. And what we're going to do is we're going to discuss them briefly and then, pick our 4-person party, our 5-person party, and our 6-person party.
But we're going to get into, what backgrounds, what feats, what other things that you should wind up choosing should you want to go in this direction.
So first up, we have the Arcane Archer, and that is going to give you access to spells, some control abilities, as well as some intelligence skills.
Battle Master has some control effects on the battlefield, as well as getting access to an extra tool.
Next up, we have the Cavalier, and that's going to offer up some control, as well as some charisma-based skills.
The champion is all about the damage dealing.
To sum up Eldritch Knight, we're talking spells. Now, you can use them for control, you can use them for defense and tanking, you can use them for damage.
The Purple Dragon Knight get access to skills, a little bit of interaction stuff, as well as buffing.
Samurai, we're talking more damage, tanking, as well as a dash of those charisma skills.
There you have it. You've got a lot of really, really interesting and diverse options for what the fighter holds.
So the most limiting factor about playing a fighter is going to be you don't have a lot of healing, although you do have more than some other classes. You're limited on your skills and you don't get as many. But depending on where you pick as far as your subclass goes, that can actually pad out your skills a little bit. And I also found when looking at the different types of fighters, they actually seem to benefit the most from your background, race, and feat choices, even more so than some of the other classes.
So those backgrounds, we have 6 that we feel are going to fill in the necessary gaps that a typical D&D party is in need of, because let's face it, while we don't necessarily care about making sure a party is balanced, it is useful to provide the information when you're trying to make this kind of party. So the first 3, Acolyte, Charlatan, and Criminal, they're going to get access to some charisma skills, some knowledge skills, as well as the more thiefy kind of things, stealth and, thieves tools, definitely a necessity.
Outlander, Sage, and Urchin, same thing. Do you want wilderness skills? Do you want to be able to survive in the wilderness? Outlander has a great boon for that, especially their feature alone. Then you have Sage, which is going to give you more access to those intelligence skills, which fighters aren't really known for. And then finally you have Urchin. Again, now we're talking more of those rogue-type skills, access to thieves' tools, things that you wouldn't normally get. And heck, you even get a pet mouse.
Come on. Pet mouse is awesome, right? So with our races, we've got 22 races that stand out, broken down into several different categories. There's magic, there's healing, and then there's multiple. So the multiples, we've got 3 aspects here.
There's also skills as well.
All right, so for races, we've got 22 that stand out that are going to give our fighters access to things that they don't normally get. So we've got 3 that fall into the multiple. We've got some that are access to magic and some that are access to skills.
All right, so we're going to start off with multiple, and we've got Azamar. That's going to give you actually some magic as well as some healing.
Human giving us access to a feat, that's going to allow you to choose something that's going to give you either healing or magic, and they get access to skills, so they fill both roles.
And then we have Gith Yankee. They also get skills as well as magic. So in magic, we start off with Dragonborn and Dwarf. For Dwarf, specifically Dugar, I know what you're saying. Dragonborn don't actually get magic, but I'm like, they get a breath weapon, and it's almost like a magical effect. And I was like, well, I'm not sure where else to put that, but it would definitely benefit a fighter because you get that area of effect attack.
We're also going to look at Elf. We've got Drow Elf and High Elf. They both have access to magic. And then when we go to Gnomes, we've got Forest Gnome and Deep Gnomes. Both gain access to magical abilities.
Now, Deep Gnome is with a question mark or quotes because you only get access to the magical abilities if you take a feat. But the amount of magic and the magic you get is really good. So next up, you got Tiefling and Genasi. Both of them get magical abilities.
We've got Furbolg and Triton. Again, more magic.
Next up, and finally, we have the Yanti Pureblood and the Githzerai.
So next up, we're going to move into our races that have access to, furthering skills. So we have Half Elf, we have Kenku, we have Lizard Folk.
Then we have Tabaxi, Changeling, and Eberron Orc.
We also have Warforged, Vidalcan, and Lokatha. So all of these races are going to give us access to skills that are going to further advance, what we're doing. The half elf even gives you 2 that you can choose, so it's free, complete freedom there as to what you're going to select.
Everyone on the skill list gives you at least two skills, because there's a bunch of other ones that give you at least 1. But for the skill section, we actually were going for the most, and that was 2 or more. I don't think anyone gets more, but there's a bunch that get 2.
So that is incredibly helpful. And since fighter is one of the classes that gets the least amount of skills are super important in this game. So getting access to more is a needed role. Making that choice here super important.
So finally, we had feats, and we came up with 12 plus, which we'll get into that in a moment.
All right, so for our first category, we're looking at hit points or healing. So you've got Inspiring Leader, which is going to allow you to grant temporary hit points. You've got Healer, which is going to allow you to restore hit points. You've got Heavy Armor Master, which is going to allow you to kind of mitigate damage. And then you've got Tough, which is going to just give you more hit points.
So next up, we have Magic, and of course, there's Magic Initiate right off the bat for that one. You also have Spell Sniper and Ritual Caster.
But we also have 5 race-specific feats, and this is where we get into the plus category, because there's so many feats that are race-specific that grant access to magic. We felt it was easiest to just lump it into that one section.
Yeah, Gnomes, Elves, Snurf Nibbling, Drow specifically, and there's more that I'm probably not even thinking of that are over there you can grab and make your fighter extra magic-y.
So our last category of skills is going to be in proficiencies. So you've got Dungeon Delver, Linguist, Prodigy, and Skilled. All of these are going to give you access to things that, the fighter isn't normally going to get. Whether you're taking skills that are outside the fighter's, area of expertise, whether you're gaining tool proficiencies or languages that are going to be needed for interaction or making things. Super helpful, super thematic in getting this to a balanced party.
So the only thing left really now is to create our adventuring party of all fighters and see how it shakes out.
Now, there's going to be some definite comments on this. So you can please let us know down below whether you agree with us, whether you disagree. There are many people out there who say, when it comes to fighter, the champion, it's right there in the name, it is the best. And, there's a lot of people who are going to agree with that. But because the fighter is so good at that's great. But for what this party needs,
It becomes redundant.
So well, you can all do damage. Great. everybody can do damage. So being a little bit better at damage actually pushes him out of one of the, the needed roles. We all can swing a sword and do damage. We need other things to fill in these gaps. So where did we wind up going with our 4-person party?
All right, 4-person party, Battle Master, Eldritch Knight, Purple Dragon Knight, and Samurai. Now, Purple Dragon Knight is actually, I think, generally the worst fighter subclass. But when you put it with all the other fighters who don't generally have ways to buff and interact with the other characters in your party, it actually makes it stand out and more useful, because every time when you use one of your fighter abilities, essentially, you can then give a benefit to someone else in your party. So that becomes a lot more useful in a party that has no other way of really buffing the other party members.
The Eldritch Knight is going to give you access to your spells. The Battle Master is going to wind up taking care of your control. Your Samurai and your Purple Dragon Knight are going to be able to get access to some skills and some interactions. So all in all, I think it's a really good choice, really good pick for putting together a team of all fighters. But we talked about, well, what if we go to 5 players in the party? Where do we go next and why?
So for the 5th member, I would add the Cavalier, because they're super tanky, super sticky. You put them up front, they're going to kind of take control of that front line and give your other fighters more ability to move around and do what they want, because the Cavalier is great at locking.
So then we also talked about going to a 6-person party. And so far it seems like we've got some very frontline, fighters all up front. We need somebody that's going to be able to take care of, damage from the back. So I think for our 6th person, I think we're going to add the Arcane Archer.
The Arcane Archer is a great choice for that. It's going to give you some extra damage through magic. It's also going to give you some extra control effects. So it's going to make your party overall more versatile.
There we have it. We have got all 6 members of our all fighter party put together. So what do you think out there? Is there something we got really right? Anything we got really wrong?
But now we go into the part of the video where, how do we run this game? How do we have an all-fighter party from both the player side and the DM side?
This is kind of great for, number one, a world where magic is rare. We've got a Eldritch Knight, we've got an Arcane Archer. Perhaps these are people who are the first ones to experience magic from the party side. There might be others that are out there, those rare hermits and what have you, and you've got a low magic world, so it would make sense that you don't have wizards, clerics, druids, and all these other full casters running around besides. I think that would be a great reason to play a more Lord of the Rings style game.
Now, that's one thing. The other thing is you're playing a more military game. It's a military campaign. War is the backdrop. These are all individuals that are essentially in the army. So that's why they're there. That's why they're together. Could easily do it that way. You could also do some kind of contest of champions where the best warriors of the realm are all brought together from all over the place. They're all first level for some reason. But you do a champion style game where these warriors are all brought in from different parts of the realm. They're kind of partnered up. I don't know, they're first level. Maybe they're attached to the champion, or maybe they are. You can play it up depending on how you want to treat character classes in your particular world. And then something happens. And they're all kind of thrust together, and there's a problem to solve. They have a common enemy. You could definitely go from that aspect of it as well. Or again, anytime you have an existential threat, the idea of bringing in character classes, all the same character classes, to one spot from different parts of the realm to solve it together also always makes a good reason for the same character class party, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, those are a lot of great ideas. Perhaps they're putting together a strike force because whatever the problem is, whatever the villain for this story arc, maybe it's immune to magic. Maybe you're looking at, bringing down a Rakshasa or something along those lines, or something more elevated than that. I think you could have a lot of fun when it's all right, well, yeah, you technically have an Arcane Archer and a, Eldritch Knight here, but they could use their magic for other things. So when you've got something that, well, wizard's going to be useless. You know, I was actually playing in a game recently where we were up against a Tarrasque, and my character was a warlock. So it's like, all right, all I've got is Blasty. Blasty's going to be useless against the Tarrasque. What do I do?
Well, you know, oddly enough, the funny thing about the Rashashka example is the Eldritch Knight is actually perfect for them because they're vulnerable to piercing magic attacks. And it's like, it could be like the rest of the crew's job to get them there, to get them the shot, you know, and they're the ones that are supposed to take them out. So that actually works. But what about like from the DM side? I feel like a party of fighters can handle a lot. Like they can do a lot of damage, they can take a lot of damage, they get the most attacks in the game. Now you can't spread out damage the same way that a wizard or sorcerer can, but you can spread out damage pretty good as a fighter. As long as you have the movement, you've got action surge. You know, there's ways to get attacks with your bonus action, and then you know you eventually get 4 attacks a round. You could get 9 attacks off, you know, without doing anything specifically fancy. And I think there's a couple ways to get even more. The Samurai's got some stuff going on. The Cavalier, when it gets to a certain point, if you can make things or goad things into running past the Cavalier, they can get like unlimited attacks.
So, like, as the DM, I would want to plan a variety of different types of encounters. And I would be looking at, well, what can these characters do? All right, well, they're going to get a lot of attacks. And I have to say that it is thrilling as a player to just see this massive horde of, you know, low hit point monsters, you know, coming at us. But like, all right, I'm just going to begin mowing through them. And all right, I get 4 attacks a round. All right, dead, 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 dead. Next player up, dead, 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 dead. You know, it's fun to see that. If you're playing and actually using maps and miniatures, it could be exhausting to have to move all of these things. But, you know, I think it's just so enjoyable to see what fighters can do. And then along the other lines is you can just put up this big creature that when it gets its turn, it's got the ability to hit hard, hit multiple things, you know, all at once, and to just be able to soak hundreds and hundreds of points of damage.
It's going to need to.
It's going to need to, because if you've got a party of, you know, 4 to 6 things hitting for 4 or 5 attacks around, for potentially a ridiculous amount of damage per swing, because, you know,
you're also going to get a bunch of crits. Let's face it, you're rolling that many dice. I also think too, when I think about this kind of a party, I think about like the Magnificent Seven. So there's definitely themes you could run off of it. And also I think the all fighter party is a little bit easier for you to go and take different tropes and different stories from different various media and drop it right into your game.
Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. I'm certain we could, you know, keep going on and on, you know, with all of these different ideas. But however you decide you want to play the all fighter party, you know, it's gonna take your game in a different direction than where it normally goes. So if you enjoyed this video and want to check out another one just like it, you can check out the all wizard party in the card right here.
Speaking of adventuring parties, you can join ours over on Patreon. We've got all kinds of sweet loot over there for you.
We've got monthly 5e content, weekly live chats, monthly giveaways that our patrons are automatically entered in, and so much more.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.